The time by the office of the Prime Minister is
5:30 p.m. and it's family time.
And welcome to everyone on Love 101 FM, on Love 101 Facebook and YouTube Live. This is Family Time. Family Time is about your issues and your relationships. It's about your at-home family, your community family, your global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is always to enable healthy families, which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please connect with us via all our platforms. Friend us on Facebook at FLM-Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram, keep up with what's happening at simply FLMJA. While Family Time is a family program, we'd like to caution that it may, on odd occasion, touch on what some may consider to be mature subject matters. Your discretion is advised. I'm Crystal Daly Thompson. Broken communication, lack of parental guidance, strained relationships, cycles of conflict. These struggles don't just affect adults, they leave lasting marks on our children. And very often the children are left to pick up the pieces and sort themselves out through to adulthood. How are children affected, and how can they do this picking up of pieces? From dysfunction to direction is our topic today. We're going to unpack that with our two special guests, and we're going to look closely at family dysfunction and struggles that affect children, and how faith and practical steps can help us rebuild, renew, and walk in God's design for our homes. And we'll show you how, with not just one true story, but through studied techniques. Now, even though we do not we'll be doing most of the talking, we still want to hear from you. Here is your feedback question for this afternoon. Have you ever seen a family move from dysfunction toward direction? Let me ask that again. Have you ever seen a family move from dysfunction towards direction? What made the difference with that family? Try to keep those voice notes no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines at 876-968-8327 or 876-968-8328. You can even watch us and comment live on Love 101 FM and Facebook, as well as the YouTube channels. We'll be right back with our special guests, Dr. Kesha Christie and Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson, when we'll jump right into the topic from dysfunction to direction. This is Family Time.
Where are the campus eyes?
On the next episode of Campus Connection, we are diving into the important conversation of safety and security. Staying safe is everyone's responsibility, from cyber threats to protecting your personal data. This segment explores the real risks we face and how to guard against them. Learn how to spot danger early, create strong safety plans, and respond confidently in emergencies, whether at home, at school, or online. Our special guests from the Ministry of National Security and Peace and the Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team will share expert insights and practical tips to help you stay protected in today's fast-changing world. Plus, don't miss our Honor Roll Spotlight, featuring the remarkable Gabriel Davids from the St. Catherine High School. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign from the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Tune in on Tuesday, September 23 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101, the family station.
We are carry Lord from campus. Come on, let me back one.
All right, listeners, welcome back to Family Time on Love 101. And welcome to our very special guests, Dr. Kesha Christie, mother, author, CEO, and founder of KCLH Full Business Solutions, and Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson, counseling psychologist. How are you both?
I am well.
Highly favored.
Awesome, awesome. Great to see you both. Great to see you, Dr. Christie. Of course, we know you recently published your book, had your book signing, The Currency of Grit. And I'm sure some of what you'll be sharing this afternoon will be in the book or has been in the book. And of course, you'll be expounding on that a little bit more. Now, guys, remember your feedback question. Have you ever seen a family move from dysfunction toward direction? What made the difference? WhatsApp, text, and voice notes to 876 997 3125. Try to keep those voice notes to no longer than 30 seconds. And you can also call our studio lines at 876 968 8327 or 968 8328. Watch us and comment live on Love 101 Facebook and YouTube channels. To begin, let's talk about the dysfunction, what dysfunction really looks like. Research shows that children in these homes often struggle with self esteem, anxiety, or repeated negative cycles in their own relationships. And of course, we have two doctors here to talk about it. One of them has lived through it, of course, overcome by the currency of grit. See, I played on words right there. And we have the psychologist, Dr. Anderson Atkinson, who will be talking about the behavioral patterns. So I'm going to talk about what dysfunction really means. Let's talk about that first. Dr. Atkinson, could you break that down for us?
Well, dysfunction, when we think about a dysfunctional family, we're thinking about a family context
Yes.
where emotional and physical needs are unmet.
Yes.
So there is, as opposed to a healthy family, where that prioritizes the emotional, physical, and just the general well-being of its members.
Yes.
Dysfunctional families are about maintaining a status quo that is often neglectful or abusive or minimizing, just generally unsafe of its family members. So children are particularly vulnerable because they have less influence over routines. They're physically not able to keep themselves safe from adults who are stronger and have more financial and other influence. And so when we think about dysfunctional families, we're thinking about families where there's over control, there's neglect, there is physical, sexual, emotional abuse,
Yes.
and there's a lot of silencing in a way that doesn't breathe growth and thriving.
Awesome. That paints a very clear picture. But what are the signs of dysfunction in a family? So, a young person might be listening now, or persons might be listening and they don't realize that they're existing in a dysfunctional family. What are some of the things that they would observe, even if they're in a nuclear family or not?
Mhm. Yes, because dysfunction can express itself in any family configuration. And so when you're in a dysfunctional family, you're not feeling safe to express your thoughts and feelings, your opinions, because of fear of consequences. The consequences can be physical, so physical violence, or it can be emotional withdrawal or invalidation. There
Yes.
can be, a family context is not safe when the needs of each individual isn't prioritized. There isn't space for me to have preferences and to pursue goals. There, it isn't predictable because there's just so much chaos. There is
Yes.
so much hostility, and just when you know your family context is unsafe, when you're preoccupied with fear, you're uncertain about your own self-worth and your
Yes.
place in the family, you are not confident that your needs can be met in a reasonable way given your family context, because we also have to be mindful of, we're talking relative to your family, okay?
Yes.
And maybe there is use excessive use of substances in a way that makes it so that people are unsafe.
Okay.
And there is a sense of low self-esteem. Maybe there is an issue in relation to employment just because of general unpredictability and just general risk of maintaining patterns.
Okay.
that are unhelpful.
All right, those are several things on a list there. But let's hear from you, Dr. Christie. You have, of course, overcome several challenges and you have defied the odds. And your success speaks of, as your book says, having grit to overcome some of the challenges in your life. So, could you just share with us what your dysfunctional environment looked like and how you tried to navigate?
So, as Dr. Atkinson would have come from her professional stance as it relates to dysfunction, at that time, for me, I didn't have the broad understanding of dysfunction.
Yes.
But what I want to say, though, that this dysfunction is not always loud, right? Dysfunction is like the absence of a father in my case and a mother trying to go to make something or make a better life for us, not really looking at the consequences of that action. And so from her standpoint, she's trying to do better. My father doing his own thing. But then for the child, the dysfunction is the getting into abusive relationships and also having rejection. Because
Yes.
of course, that dysfunction now, it's a community thing as well. So what happens is that you are rejected by the community because you're seen as those children that are let go, for want of a better word. They don't have the parental guidance.
Yes.
And dysfunction also means that rejection from even your own family members, as a matter of fact. You're not seen as those family members that have that nuclear family. So you're seen as less than.
Right.
For me, though, it would have also meant that abandonment, the rejection. One of the things that I would have had, so I like that Dr. Atkinson came with it, but I would have defied the odds by not getting into the depressive state of the dysfunction. So going through the hunger and the rejection and having to survive, though, I know from that time that God and the survival instincts would have come in because I couldn't afford to get into that depressive state that comes with dysfunctional families.
Yes.
So I had to, at the end of the day, going through this hunger, the scars, the abuse. Even when my mother came, I think a part of this being so dysfunctional was the single parents and the pressure that that would have placed on her, and having that she would have then been suffering from physical abuse. If you know what I'm saying.
Yes. Yes.
Trying to find that that getting that love and all of that, you find that also catapulted into her giving us the, would I say, the whooping and the scars and some things that actually would have caused us further rejection and further feeling further rejected and low.
Yes. But you said something that is so profound. You said you couldn't allow yourself to get into that depressive state. And we know dysfunction can affect emotionally and psychologically the child. What did you use to speak to your spirit? What was there a mentor? Was there a quote? Was there somebody that you looked up to or something that you held on to that enabled you to be more positive in the situation?
So for me, as I said, I had to survive because of I was dragged up to be a mother. And in the situation, I can now look at it based on the teachings that I have, that I know that it is God that would have given me that internal strength and ability to go on. I did not have, so my circumstances were that I was living in Stony Hill, and as I would always tell persons, I would be seeing the affluence of persons, but really couldn't touch or feel it tangibly.
Yes.
Seeing it, but so it was the ambition, the drive. I wanted to be able to be like those persons then. I don't know,
Yes.
probably not them day, they would have said bad mind, but
Right.
it was ambition for me. So
Right.
despite the brutality, despite the beating, despite everything that I was going through, I had that drive. So it is that having that dysfunction, but there was this internal drive for me to say, okay,
keep pressing on.
Yeah, this is not
Yes.
my story.
I want you to hold on to this. Is a very passionate topic, This is a very passionate topic. Listeners, stay tuned. This is family time. The time is now 5:45. We're going to a break. We're discussing dysfunction. We want to hear from you. So remember to WhatsApp or text your responses to our question. Have you ever seen a family move from dysfunction toward direction? What made the difference? This is family time. We're going to a break. We'll be right back.
See all my other face bruise up? They beat me just because I said I'm tired.
I'm only 13, but they said if I work harder, they will make me go back home.
Me not have no birth paper nor no ID. Them have all of my documents them. Forced labor is one of the many forms of human trafficking. Report suspected cases of human trafficking. Call the nearest police station, 119 or 888-PROTECT. A message from the Ministry of National Security.
Let's get digital. TAJ is now issuing all motor vehicle registration certificates exclusively digital. You need an email address for the process and instructions will be sent to you. No more stickers, no more paper. Choose your registration period of 6, 12, or now 24 months. Private motor vehicle operators can renew online, but for all other motor vehicles, you must visit a tax office. For more info, call 888-829-4357 or visit jamaicatax.gov.jm. TAJ, working together to serve you even better.
We know you're making every dollar work harder, choosing carefully, buying what you need, and making it stretch as far as you can. That's why Grace is giving shoppers discounts on over 20 of your favorite Grace products when you cash out at participating supermarkets. It's our way of helping you sweeten moments together, share more meals, and take care of the people you love. Make a good move with Holy savings from Grace.
We are by your side, looking after life. We've been here for 25 years and we are
Guardian Life.
just getting started. Leading the way every day, protecting you and yours at every stage.
Guardian Life.
Looking after life, caring for family, caring for you. Looking after life is what we do.
For every generation, for every stage, your partner for 25 years. Guardian Life.
Looking after life.
Nothing beats the Love 101 September Bonanza. That's 15% off any advertising package. That's more savings, more spots, and more reach for your business. But don't wait. This offer ends September 30. Call us now at 876-968-9596-7 or email sales&marketing@love101.org. Let's grow together. Conditions apply.
Welcome back. We're talking about from dysfunction to direction. This is Family Time on Love 101 FM. Now, we want you to tell us, have you ever seen a family move from dysfunction toward direction? What made the difference? We want to hear from you. We have our guests in studio, Dr. Kesha Christie, mother, author, and financial consultant. And of course, she's the author of the book, The Currency of Grit. And we have Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson, counseling psychologist, and she's giving us the professional and the clinical reasonings behind this. But of course, we have a live person here in Dr. Christie who will be sharing her story with us. And we know I'm excited to hear some more, but we forgot buy the book.
That's right.
Right? Now, family was God's idea from the very beginning. So let's bring this home with real life experiences and think about what happens when we drift from God's design for family. Now, before we went on the break, I wanted to ask, just as Dr. Christie would have ended her, piece there, just sharing what she endured. I want to ask you, Dr. Atkinson, why is it that this type of dysfunction is repeated? And it's very rampant in our families in Jamaica, very harsh towards our children. We are very, disruptive. We do not allow for healthy space for expression for emotions. We think that children do not have emotions. Shut up and go on in your room. These kinds of things. Why do we think that many families repeat these patterns?
Well, the cycles of dysfunctionality are maintained because we develop mental frames of how we are to relate to ourselves and to others from our earlier experiences.
Yes.
Because there is no established code that everybody receives when they become parents. What we take are the experiences that we have lived ourselves. Sometimes that mental frame, we're acting in reaction to it, like trying very hard, concentrating to be the opposite of that.
Yes.
And often we are, despite ourselves, mimicking a lot of the behaviors and the sentiments and the expectations that we have lived ourselves. And
Right.
so because of how we form attachments early in life, we develop our identities, and those identities translate into how we parent and how we
Mm.
relate as partners. And especially when there is a culture that is silencing of those who are more vulnerable, like or younger ones, or
Yes.
that's more authoritarian. It combines with histories of undiagnosed mental health concerns and addictions and pathological patterns around chaos and neglect and emotional distance that together just combines to create, unfortunately, family systems that continue transgenerationally to be traumatic.
Yes. And I want to bring in Dr. Christie here because, of course, she was pouring out just before we went to the break. She is a mother now. Having gone through some of the things you have gone through, Dr. Christie, how have you put things in place or made effort not to repeat some of the things you endured now as a mother?
So for me, no, it is actually having Christ at the center of my relationship with my sons. Previously, before the teaching that I'm now getting the University of Greater Works, I must say, before the teaching, what would happen is that I would overextend love to my sons, which sometimes would have meant that I was quote unquote spoiling them because the things that I wasn't accustomed to. And I think it's a psychological thing which Dr. Atkinson would speak to.
Yes.
So before the teaching and all of that, what would happen is that I would overcompensate. So because I wasn't accustomed to certain things in life, I made sure that my sons were not without it. And as a result of that, you find that it has a flip effect. So until you get grounded and the teaching about how you need to grow your child in the fear of the Lord and so on, you
Yes.
find that naturally you try to give that child or the children everything you didn't have.
Yes. Yes. What role does forgiveness play in your healing and how you view your mother or your parents now if they're alive? What role does that play? And how do you again translate that in a healthy way to your children?
Okay, so I had to display that forgiveness, and it didn't come overnight. I must tell you, it took faith, therapy, prayer, and a serious amount of falling down and getting back up and brushing on myself. Because when I look over my life, and the guys get the currency of British expounds and other things that I would have gone through. I
Yes.
mean that for argument's sake, I wasn't one of the I wasn't one of the three of us. The others went overseas. They were filed for. I was left back. So I was bitter. I was bitter, not only because of the physical scars and everything that I went through, but even after that, I thought I was a black sheep. So forgiveness for me had to be a determination and an effort and understanding. Say, hey, I'm hurting myself by having this up. So
Yes.
I had to actually go into deep therapy, self therapy, and forgive my mother. And how I display that now is that my mother will come down and I ensure that my sons and everybody will see the relationship that I now have with my mother. My father is now deceased, but before he died, I was at his bedside praying for him and, to ensure that, hey, he understood that I would have forgiven him for all the things that he would have done
Yes.
in my life.
You mentioned therapy, and then I hear you mentioning self-therapy. What did the self-therapy look like? Did it look like prayer, rather, reading scriptures? What did it look like for you
So
for self?
remember, so Crystal, I was on a spectrum, right?
Yes.
So being out before I got under certain covering and teaching, therapy for me meant probably a drinking or a partying or ensuring that whatever what would have actually taken my mind off it before I was elevated or edified to a certain level of teaching.
Yes.
No, as I said, there's a spectrum.
Yes.
So now it is the prayer, the ensuring that I'm doing my confessions and walking on the word and ensuring that I'm having those scriptures. So that is the therapy that I would have gone through. So it wasn't always the prayer and the walking on the word. Before that, it would have been getting to a point of trying to forget all the things that I've gone through by listen to music and shake my foot 2 times, forget the things I'm having. But that's a part of the therapy for me at that time.
Self-soothing techniques.
Self-soothing therapy.
Yes. So, Dr. Atkinson, still on the point of therapy, because a lot of people think it's only mad people go therapy, and something wrong with you if you want therapy, and therapy is expensive. How can you encourage our listeners to seek therapy, especially in adulthood, where some of these scars and issues have been showing up in our adult lives because of what we've been learning, and I've been learning over the years, trauma. So the traumatic experiences that we've had in life, they have caused us to have certain behavioral patterns in our adult life. But what role does actual therapy play? Self-therapy is very much your big kudos to you, Dr. Christie, for pushing ahead and finding Christ and using scripture and word. But what about those who need a little bit more help? Dr. Atkinson, what do you have to say about that?
Certainly. So there is, regardless of whether you're going to pursue traditional therapy with a counselor, a psychologist, a social worker, a mental health provider, or not, there is a lot of value in doing the self work that the guest is sharing about. In addition to that, there are persons I want to thank you, Dr. Christie, for sharing your work on grit, the ability to persist, especially when something is long term and effortful and lots of obstacles. And I imagine that your journey from histories to now has been very effortful. There are some persons who might not have all the psychological and spiritual resources that you might be able to access to be further along in your work. And for those persons, individual space, a group space where they're working with a mental health provider can be invaluable, along with the work that they do with their social support and with recreation and with art crafting and whatever it is that is releasing for them. And so I'd encourage persons, especially when you realize, despite your best intentions, that you're opening your mouth and you're hearing your parents speak the things that you promised yourself, I would never do, I'd never expect, I'd never say. You're noticing yourself mimicking some of those, that you give yourself permission to access these resources, to extend the work that you're already doing, to be an even better parent, a better spouse than you currently are to your family.
Excellent. We are now upon the break, but this is Family Time live on Love 101 FM, YouTube, and Facebook. It's produced by Family Life Ministries. For our social media interaction, we want you to tell us, have you ever seen a family move from dysfunction toward direction? What made the difference? We have a voice note, and when we come back from the break, we're going to hear from Sister Ray Ray on her feedback to that question. This is
I'm Itana, and human trafficking is everybody's business. Call 1-888-PROTECT to report suspected cases of child trafficking.
The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6 o'clock.
We are York St. Peter's Evangelistic Organization, Jamaica. Join our international ordination program and study to become an ordained minister. With practical workshops and ordination in Jamaica, there's no need to travel. We have discounted tuition and payment plans just for Jamaica. This 10 months online study from home program begins on October 6, 2025, and ordination is in August 2026. For further information, please visit yorkstpeters.ca.
Nothing beats the Love 101 September Bonanza. That's 15% off any advertising package. That's more savings, more spots, and more reach for your business. But don't wait. This offer ends September 30. Call us now at 876-968-9596 or email sales&marketing@love101.org. Let's grow together. Conditions apply.
Welcome back. Let's go right to the voice note, and then thereafter, we're going to hear from Reverend Mike with Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike.
Family Times. Sister Riri here. Good evening. There are so many things I can say, but the time is not there. Well, I just want to share. Yesterday, I was at church, and a little boy fell down. And I went to assist him to get up. And the mother said, no, my boy, fit off. I turned to her and I said, this is why our men are so tough. Our men not experience emotion because we don't allow them to cry. You feel them, my boy, and then fit off it out. So that's a big deal right now. People need to make people experience the emotion, children experience the emotion. So when them go big, them know that their feelings, them are so tough. And children do live what they learn.
All right, so we hear it there from Sister Ray Ray. We need to encourage our children to be able to express themselves in healthy ways emotionally. That is very critical to navigating this life. Healthy emotional expression and managing emotions in a very, very, very healthy way. All right, it's now time for Word to Flesh Moments with Reverend Mike.
All human beings live in 4 dimensions and on 2 planes. The 4 dimensions are physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. The 2 planes are horizontal, that is, how we relate to each other, and vertical, as in how we relate to God, our Creator. Some of us seem to be doing very well in all our dimensions. Some of us are doing well in some, but quite dysfunctional in others, while others of us have become quite dysfunctional in all dimensions of our lives. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. No matter how you're doing, the Bible expects and provides for us a total reorientation of life once we are in Christ. Your life can go from total dysfunction to renewed direction. We all can experience a profound transformation, leaving behind our dysfunctional dimensions and becoming a new person with a renewed spirit, purpose, and identity. centered on God and His righteousness. How? Number one, accept Jesus Christ as your Savior. Number two, repent or deliberately do an about turn in the areas of which you're failing. Number three, open yourself to the transformative power of God's Holy Spirit. Yes, you will have divine help. For completing steps 1 and 2 opens you up to live in that vertical plane of which I earlier spoke. I'm Reverend Mike from Fellowship Tabernacle, and we just had a WTF moment.
All right. Thank you so much, Reverend Mike, for the WTF moment. You are tuned to Love 101. This is Family Time, brought to you by Family Life Ministries. Family Life Ministries provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Our show this evening is From Dysfunction to Direction, and our special guests are Dr. Kesha Christie and Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson. Faith gives us the foundation. We heard that even as Reverend Mike made his feature there, but we also need tools to rebuild. Let's check out some practical steps that families can take to rebuild. No, I'm going to turn over to you, Dr. Atkinson. You were making a point earlier, but we had to move quickly there to the break. I just want to give you the opportunity to expound on what you were saying earlier.
Yes, I was mentioning that the value of therapy, working with a mental health provider, when you realize that your family is not as healthy as you'd want it to be, is that sometimes we have good intentions, but we're not necessarily having a good command of the skills. So, and we might not even realize where we're having some of the skills deficits. We notice that there's frequent arguing and tension and conflict, but we're not appreciating, because we're looking through our own lens, how we might be contributing to cycles of unhelpful communication, or how we might be utilizing unhelpful conflict resolution skills, or how previous hurts, previous interactions with our early family members might actually be influencing how we're viewing or family members' behaviors and interpreting their intentions. Therapy can arm us with some of the new insights and skills on how to do things differently. Even when we're motivated, it can even help in relation to increasing our motivation. So that is the value that is distinct from other self-help strategies. And I am a person of faith as well, and I know a lot of the skills we can glean some of it in community through mentorship and other tools. But certainly there's a space for some of the more specific, streamlined learning, more functional, useful family functioning tools.
I'd like to ask Dr. Christie. Thank you so much, Dr. Atkinson, by the way. Therapy is indeed very important, giving us the relevant tools in terms of knowing how to navigate and interpret even what is happening to us, and why some circumstances are what they are, because, sometimes it can be very mentally traumatizing when you cannot, you're asking questions like, why is my mother speaking to me like that? Or can't she see that I need so and so? And therapy will be able to break it down to you to let you know that perhaps your mother has a deficit in this area, so and so. So therefore, you should treat with it as such, and so on and so on. But Dr. Christie, what role does setting healthy boundaries play in restoring peace at home? I know, and I ask you this particular question because I've heard it said many times before that persons who have gone through traumatic experiences, whether it is sexual abuse or manipulation and control, that in our adulthood we do not know how to set boundaries. We do not know how to set healthy boundaries, and we may pass those on to our children, and our children don't know how to set boundaries and make people take step at them, for lack of a better expression. What have you done to set some boundaries for yourself, knowing that you've gone through situations where people are them out by you, people abuse you because you were children girls or female without a mother's protection or a father's protection? How did you do that and introduce that to your boys?
All right. So first, I would, it's a mental thing. It's a transformation of the mind, and one of the things that I had to learn was that boundaries is not a punishment, right?
Yes.
It's actually a protective mechanism that you put in place and to ensure that, because without these boundaries, you go back into the whole system of the dysfunctional being. So the boundaries are there. What I've taught is it's there to restore the order, to restore that the reduce the conflict, and for us to understand that, hey, boundaries are there to align you to affect the destiny. So if people are into the perspective and context that boundaries are there to acknowledge the clear, the purpose, the destiny, and it is from that perspective that I would have actually been trying to not only myself but even my children to say, hey, the party business.
Yes.
Was I under mommy? But you used to said yes, but you learn from me and the things that I would have gone through. And as a result of that, the boundaries now in place to ensure that the things that I would have done, for argument's sake, going and having the drinks and so on, you reduce that effect because you don't really want that for your liver and all of that. So
Right.
it encourages a healthy lifestyle, a more fulfilled environment in which we operate when we try to understand and align boundaries with where you're going, where you should be, and with God and what God wants you to do. So that's how I try to incorporate boundaries in my relationship with my children, and also to tell them that when you have some boundaries, it's more peaceful. When they go down this road, it's war and drama and stress. You don't really need that. So
Yes.
boundaries align you and ensure that you are operating and you're living optimally.
Awesome. You have definitely created a safe space for discussion and, for questions and for understanding as to why, you have certain approaches to life, considering what you've been through with your boys. Excellent there. But I want to ask you, Dr. Atkinson, how can parents create safe spaces for children to share their feelings? Recently in the news, we heard of a child committing suicide. He came home late and his mother scolded him, flogged him, and he was hurt and wounded by that. What would a safe space in such a situation look like? How can we create safe spaces as Jamaican people? Because sometimes we're afraid to speak to our caregivers and our guardians. What do you have to say to parents listening out there who can be very harsh and not understanding?
It's really, I think it's really being clear that even though we have charge over our young ones, we have responsibility for providing for them, that they're distinct individuals from ourselves. And so being respectful of their personhood. So they are still their decision making skills are still developing, and so they will make missteps as we did as well in younger years. Let us not forget.
Yes.
And so it's helpful for us to have very clear expectations and clear consequences, but also and communicate that. But as we're communicating the consequences, that we're also communicating the love and care and the rationale around the consequences. It doesn't mean that they'll appreciate it, because no, I don't know anybody that runs towards um, aversive consequences. But
Yes.
it's really making sure that our heart is at the right place as we're exacting or following up behaviors with consequences. And before and after the consequences, keeping the relationship, prioritizing the relationship. Because it's not in the moment of consequences that necessarily you'll have the relationship building feeling the strongest, but
Yes.
it's the general tone of the relationship. It's the explanation, the willingness to accept vulnerability, even as a parent,
Yes. Yes.
being
Yes.
able to communicate this when you've made mistakes too, because we make mistakes even in the midst of being parents.
Yes.
And so expressing our vulnerability, but being consistent with our consequences, but mingling or consequencing and our monitoring with very clear and abundant expressions of love is what maintains safety. Because if we don't provide any structure or
Yes.
any sense of what to expect, then we're neglectful, and that it doesn't bode well for future functioning or for the relationship either. But if we leave no room for conversation, and
Yes.
I have a 4-year-old, and I am amazed at how engaged she is while and before and after any consequences should follow. Um,
Okay.
so 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 let us appreciate, even though they're developing, they still
Yes.
have mental faculties and can engage with us. And so
Indeed.
giving them that space can really make a difference in kind of creating safety.
Excellent. Thank you so very much for those solid points there. The time is now 6:15, listeners. You've been listening to Family Time live here on the Love 101 FM YouTube and Facebook page. It's produced by Family Life Ministries. For our feedback question, please, we want to hear from you. Have you ever seen a family move from dysfunction toward direction? What made the difference? We're going to a break. We'll be right back.
You can see the face, but not the heart. Those who want to do you wrong.
Bless up. This is Christopher Martin. Human trafficking is a crime. Let's unite to end human trafficking. Be wise, open your eyes, spot them, stop them, and report them.
A message from the Ministry of National Security.
No shadow after dark. No shadow after dark. Okay, where are the campus eyes?
On the next episode of Campus Connection, we are diving into the important conversation of safety and security. Staying safe is everyone's responsibility. From cyber threats to protecting your personal data, this segment explores the real risks we face and how to guard against them. Learn how to spot danger early, create strong safety plans, and respond confidently in emergencies, whether at home, at school, or online. Our special guests from the Ministry of National Security and Peace and the Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team will share expert insights and practical tips to help you stay protected.
All right, listeners, welcome back to Family Time. The time is now 6:17. You're tuned into Love 101. We've been discussing here on Family Time from dysfunction to direction with our two guests, Dr. Kesha Christie and Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson, counseling psychologist. But just before we dive into the final segment of our discussion, we want to share with our listeners that Family Life Ministries presents Before They Say I Do. It's an online training for pastors and counselors. Now, this is going to be on Saturday, October 4th, 2025 at 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. via Zoom. To register, call these numbers 876-926-8101 or WhatsApp 876. This is, let me check here, 579-8690. That's 876-579-8690 for the WhatsApp number. Now, remember, there is limited space. And so if you're so interested, please call those numbers to register. All right, so back to our discussion with Dr. Kesha Christie and Dr. Anderson Atkinson. Now, practical steps towards renewal. We want to continue on that vein. So we spoke about creating, a healthy environment where people can discuss their concerns with their children, where parents rather can discuss their concerns with their children, and children can express in a very healthy way. And of course, a healthy environment is created where emotional engagement is reciprocated in a very restorative type of way. And as you were speaking, Dr. Atkinson, I thought about parents who said to me that they have apologized to their children, and
Yes.
they tell them when they have gone wrong, well, daddy did something wrong here, and boy, I'm really sorry about that. mommy said this to you, and I know it hurts you, and I'm sorry, I'm something that I'm working on. And those are things that are very healthy. Sometimes you talk to persons and they'll say, nobody in my family ever apologizes, nobody ever says I am sorry, you know, everybody is just wrong and strong, you know. And that is what continues the cycle of this unhealthy type of living. And we talk about sweeping issues under the rug when it comes on to families, and things fester and cause families to become even more dysfunctional. When should families seek counseling? When should they, and why is it not a sign of weakness if they do not?
Well, because given the stigma around, well, before even go starting that conversation, one of the hallmarks of dysfunctional family is the secrecy.
Yes.
The myth that you don't say anything to anybody, and that makes you a close knit, healthy family. Only the family talks about its business, because it's the secrecy that actually breeds even more dysfunction and discontent, and gives expression to, all the different manifestations that we'll see in the children.
Yeah.
So you have the child, and I really appreciate Dr. Christie's characterization and description of her own journey of, well, it didn't look like the chaos of loud brawls. And the children, often it's not the children that are having the behavioral problems, uh, that are only those children that are living in dysfunction. You have the overachievers, the persons that are pursuing perfection at any cost, and eventually it catches up on them. And so just really giving yourself permission to make a roundabout change, to have a healthier process, healthier relationship, new, more effective ways of functioning in your family. And there's no time that is too late for that. And earlier is always going to be more helpful for the next generation. Remember, children are always learning about themselves, about the world, as they observe us relating to them and us relating to the other adults. And so the sooner we're able to access any kind of mental health support. Sometimes the support comes from a very skilled pastoral team. Sometimes it comes from a school counselor. Sometimes it comes from a social worker. It can just any mental health provider that has skill and training specific to helping to rework some of the challenges, can be helpful. But it's never too late, and you can't do it too early either. So as soon as you get a sniff and say, I really would want things to be a little different. I want to be a better mother, a better father. I want my children to be in a better command of their emotions, of their behaviors. It's a
Yes.
perfect time to seek and receive help, because you're giving yourself permission to do family even better.
Indeed, indeed. And I'd like to direct these questions to Dr. Christie. We really want to milk you for what it's worth, even though we want the people to go buy the book. But what's the biggest challenge your family faces when trying to stay united? And we're not talking about just your sons, your own family now, meaning your siblings. I understand that from your book. You have other siblings and so on. How do you try to keep everyone united, knowing that you guys went through a lot?
Excellent question. So it's always trying to bring God, because without God we don't make it. I mean, just personality and personality clashes would cause the floor to erupt. So one of the things is that we try to listen. And I have a particular sibling that each time my mother is in a room, it just rehashes the past. And so one of the things that we try to do is ensure that that forgiveness and that soothing and trying to understand more and more why she did, why she did what she did. So it's a matter of communication, showing her love. And again, how we have actually helped to make the situation better is relying on the word of God, because the bitterness, one of the things we try to teach each other, that the bitterness only affects you. And yes, we would have went through terrible situations, but at the end of the day, now I'm listening to Dr. Atkinson, I would have also, so the dysfunction was coming from up, coming down, and it was trickling down. Sometimes we say it's generational or whatever, but it was something that was also affecting her. So it is actually putting in that extra effort, Crystal, to ensure that our family meetings are more meaningful, Christ-centered, ensuring that when my mom comes, she's in the church and understanding and also getting that word. Because so that there would be an eruption of personalities and rehashing the past. So we ensure that we center everything around Christ to make it work. Without that,
Yes.
it's not work.
Yes. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. So what if you were to ask God for one thing for your home right now, what would that be?
To maintain the peace. So we have that peace there, but as you know, different personalities and the influence of the communities, just to ensure that we remain grounded and follow through with his word. So that is always my thing, God, and ensure that I am able to give the certain characteristics and grow my children in the fear and admonition of the Lord.
Awesome. Awesome. So thank you so very much, woman of God. I have to put that out there because that you are indeed Dr. Christie. For people, we want you to go and get that book. I tell you, riveting. Yes, indeed. Dr. Atkinson, what encouragement would you give to someone who feels stuck in dysfunction today?
Well, just to simultaneously acknowledge that you have done the best that you can. So extend compassion to yourself, because often persons who are walking in dysfunction, who have probably likely added to the dysfunction, have lived dysfunction themselves. And so
Yes.
extending compassion to yourself. You've done the best that you could till this point. And it's also true that it's time for you to do even better. And so what has been doesn't have to continue to be.
Yes.
There is a wealth of resources, things that you can do yourself. Find a space where you can ventilate some of the challenging emotions and experiences. For some people it's journaling, for some people it's sports activities, for some people it's staying on your knees at church or with your small group, reading, doing some gratitude journaling. You can start there, but also extend to somebody else, so a
Yes.
model, a mentor that you, based on your observation, has some of the skills that you think would make you even better, that would level up,
Thank
and
you.
just continue that work, because you can be a better version of yourself starting today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love what you said. What has been doesn't have to continue to be. So the past doesn't have to continue. It doesn't have to be your present. Today, we've seen that family dysfunction doesn't have to be the final word. Yes, it leaves scars, but God brings healing. With faith and practical steps, we can move from dysfunction to direction toward homes that reflect God's love and design. Thanks for being here with us, our precious guests, for sharing. And of course, you or valued listeners, you have questions of a personal nature or are concerned about a friend or a family member, we want you to call us. For more information on our services or for our counselors in Kingston and other parts of the island, contact our head office at 876-920-1034 or 926-8101. And for those who prefer to use WhatsApp, it's 876-5798-690 or 876-2798678. Note that for appointments and information on costs, you must call the offices. Otherwise, to keep up to date with what's happening with FLM and our programs, check us on our new Facebook page at FLM-Family Life Ministries. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Family Life Ministries FLMJA, and on Instagram at simply FLMJA. Before we leave you, here's our verse for this evening. It's taken from Psalm 127, verse 1. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Join us again, next week, for a more informative program. Thanks again to our special guests, Dr. Kesha Christie and Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale, big up yourself, and Derval Graham. Thank you so much for piloting us through this hour. And of course, you, our valued listeners. I'm Crystal Daly Thompson. Have a great week. This has been Family Time.
You're tuned to Family Radio, broadcasting from Kingston, Jamaica. We're Love 101 FM, and the time is now 6:30.